It is time for a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Protoss versus Zerg played on the brand new maps from the Team Liquid map contest. This particular one, oh god, I forgot the name. This particular one is called Sanctuary 3. I totally knew that. I did not need to check above the minimap at all. Spotting right here in the upper right, playing in blue, we have none other than MaxPax. Down in the bottom left, with the red Zerg pieces. For some reason, changing his username back, we have a Ragnarok. Now, Ragnarok has been working for many years to get people to call him SHIN. And apparently, after we finally all got used to the username change, he decided to now, for this particular event, switch back to Ragnarok. I love that. I love it when programmers do that, just to keep everything nice and confusing. Next up, we're gonna go back to... I think he played under Hebum? I think it's something like that. Anyways, he played under a different username as well for a little while before ultimately settling on the name SHIN. Anyhow, this is Sanctuary 3. It's one of the finalists for the Team Liquid map contest, and it's made by Avex. Avex is definitely the most successful map creator in the modern day and age. At least his creations always seem to do very well in the TLMC. Now, he took a couple of years off of map making, that is. I think he even announced that he was going to fully retire from it, but lucky for us, he decided to come back, and this time around with a very purple map. Ooh. We have little thingies flying down. Are those supposed to be like blossoms from the purpley trees or something? Is that what's happening? I'm not exactly sure. I did have a look at all of the TLMC finalists over on the More Loco channel, so if you want to check out my initial impressions, definitely have a look at my second YouTube channel for an in-depth analysis, but obviously I didn't actually see any of the actual maps played just yet, so this will be my very first time actually seeing a match right here on Sanctuary 3. One of my main takeaways, I was yapping a lot about color at the time. One of the main takeaways, I think, is that the map looked awesome visually, and I also think the layout is solid, but I really think that pink/purple. Is this pink? Is this purple? I don't know. Lavender, I guess. I do think it's an underused color in map making, and this map does look really sweet to me. Like, visually, I think it's excellent. Now, actually, like, layout-wise, everything seems to be mostly normal. There's nothing all too crazy going on. You have a relatively easy-to-take third base. There's a little Reaper jump-up pad. You even have a little Pervert pillar over here for the Overlord to go and, snitch on MaxPax's Nexus there for just a moment, who's, by the way, just opening up with a good old Stargate build. We see the same thing right now for Ragnarok. Everything is very normal here. Well, I mean, the same thing in the sense that he's going for a very standard opener. No Stargate here for Ragnarok, surprisingly enough. We're likely going to see at least 2 Oracles fly around in just a moment, but it's going to give us a little bit of time to look around the map some more. This is a relatively standard map. So usually, at least historically, the TLMC would always have you submit maps into different categories. So you would have like a standard category, a rush category, then you had like a macro category and like a freestyle category. This one seems to be, in my mind at least, very standard. Now, standard sounds a little bit boring. At the very least, it's not necessarily the type of map that really gets your heartbeat going, I suppose, but we do need standard maps in the StarCraft 2 map pool too. And this is looking, at least in my initial impressions, like a very solid all-round map. Couldn't really find anything that, I consider to be weak. Obviously, these days, we do have 9 maps in the map pool, so there's 16 finalists in the TLMC. There's also a very good chance that a few maps from the current live StarCraft 2 ladder map pool will make it to the next upcoming Season 2, so I would imagine we're gonna see anywhere between like 6 to 9 or so new maps added to the map pool, depending on how many stay from the current season, that is. But across the board, this is one of those maps that I think you can probably just put in, and it will be excellent. Visually, at the very least, it's really good. Ragnarok wants to go into a relatively quick 4th hatchery here. We have a Twilight Council coming up as well for MaxPax, so double Oracle indeed. I'm assuming Blink. Yep, this is what MaxPax does. I want to say 9 out of 10 games. He really loves this particular opener. And because of it, Ragnarok here, SHIN that is, Should I call him Ragnarok or SHIN? Now I don't know. Anyways, he decides to go into the +1 melee start. This is a really powerful start, especially when you know that your opponent is going Blink. It's one of those builds that simultaneously, though, is absolutely horrid against a variety of different build orders that Protoss can go for. Anything like Twilight Council into Glaive the Depths, or even into like Charge, or anything along those lines. A mass Zergling-based army is just not ideal, but in this particular instance, looks like the coin flip, or maybe since we have like 3 different options for Protoss, the rock, paper, scissors did go a little bit better here for Mr. SHIN across the board. Third Oracle right now joining in. Interestingly enough, we're adding one a little bit later in the mix. We're also double expanding. So I know that SHIN lately has been building up some macro hatcheries too, just like Rogue has been doing in some of his own games, but apparently now we're effectively putting one of our macro hatcheries at a future expansion, right? Like, I don't think we're really planning on mining from both of those bases, but at the very least it is triggering Max to go for a bit of a push. This expansion, though, does look to be very close here to the wall. I'm not exactly sure. Like, there's actually very little space over here. We don't usually see that. I'm not entirely sure if Ragnarok is going to be able to keep this one up and running. Nice little trigger there on the stasis ward. We do have +1 melee on the horizon and a Hydra Den on the back of this as well. Question is, when does he decide to pull the trigger? There's another stasis, which will indeed be put off, but I mean, ultimately, this hatchery is going to die. Ultimately, Blink is done as well, so it should be relatively easy for MaxPax to go back home. The real question is he going to be able to keep this aggression up while simultaneously then also grabbing a 4th base? And it seems to me like our Zerg player indeed has thought about it. This will be a super dead base. By the way, we do get proof right there that this is indeed SHIN playing, because he does play with the Diva announcer. I know. Why would anyone do that? You're all out of minerals, but there's plenty of rocks. That's the first line that goes through my mind. I can't do it. I've tried. Anyways, Bush over here continues as it looks like maybe some probes will end up dying too on the other side of the map, but there's a secondary hatchery now that will ultimately die. The map is actually relatively tight. Like, I'm surprised with how little space there really seems to be here for the Zerg player to surround this army with. And while the counterattack was reasonably successful, MaxPax did actually maintain most of the probes. The stasis wards are really good, man. Even with +1 melee, it seems like the links are just not quite strong enough. Hydras are now popping out, though, and Hydras are, of course, very high in damage. I think Hydra Ling, if the numbers are big enough, are going to be enough to push those Stalkers back. Charge just moments away from finishing up. We will see some of them immediately get surrounded, though, so that's not really going to be too useful there for MaxPax. Man, MaxPax seems to oftentimes just be on the verge of winning the game just with his Blink Stalker opener. It's kind of nuts. Like, what if he would have committed to like a, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 gateways and just went fully all in? Even against a +1 melee opener? I wonder if he could have just straight up won the game with it. It's always scary to engage deep onto creep, so he decides to just play this very safely, but SHIN here seems to be struggling quite a lot with a very macro-focused opener. Like, this is MaxPax not really committing to a big push. This is really just him putting on the pressure. Look at this, we even now blink into the main base just to pick off a few more freebies. He knows he needs to go home eventually. As a matter of fact, he's been warping in all of his reinforcements all the way up north. This is the newly made 4th hatchery, but you know what? These Hydras are in some trouble. The Zealots are very strong. Max decides to not risk it. He builds a bunch more High Templar here as well. Storm is just moments away from finishing. And MaxPax is just such a monster, man. Like, he makes Protoss, and this is, I feel like, always the hallmark of a good player, but he makes Protoss look really broken. Like, you see the same thing with, say, for example, Clem or Maru, and then with, for example, Cero as well when he plays Zerg. It's, what do you even do? Did Ragnarok make any real mistakes? I'm not entirely sure if he did. Couple of little missteps, sure. He's still in a very playable position, though, but my main concern here for the Zerg is the fact that he's got a very low eco, and he agrees. He decides to now go for what looks like an all-in, and this is one of those options, though, and it is the one that I think could certainly obtain the victory. Zealots here actually decided to just go back. There's a large clump of Hydras trying to find out if they're still somewhere in the bottom right-hand corner. Not quite the case, but Ragnarok is making non-stop army, and he has been for some time. The Banelings over here will get spotted. MaxPax is gonna have to be sharp on the micro. He's got 5 High Templar, but pretty much all of them are currently up north. Let's see. Couple of photon cannons over here to buy some time. Do we have enough for a storm? Well, after energy recharge, we do. The Banelings are trying to break through, and they're trying to make their way to the High Templar. Stalkers will blink forward to try and tank some of the damage, but this right now is a really scary attack. I think Protoss may have been caught with their pants down. Ragnarok just has such a large army. Ooh, yep, and with the Templar falling and the reinforcing Zerg units running across the map, I think Ragnarok may have just barely squeezed out a win. Those storms weren't quite perfect. MaxPax not quite anticipating this push either. Now, there is a very real chance that this is his very first game playing on this map. Protoss obviously is not really it's not a very fast-moving army. So I'm sure that MaxPax already is getting a couple of pointers here. For future reference, he will probably position his army in a different location. Ragnarok right now dancing, though, trying to prevent those units from getting back into the natural. Gets the surround on one of the Archons, too. Hydras break open the high ground. That's 29 probes falling. Yeah, and he may have been sitting only at 67 workers. It looks to me like it is just barely enough. Wow. Yeah, margin for error is tiny, GG. Alrighty. Next up, apparently we have had Ragnarok here switch to light blue just to keep it nice and confusing for everybody. We have blue versus blue. Next up, we find ourselves on a map called Old Sun Temple. Now, if you have a little glance at the mini-map, this map is absolutely massive. And it's because it's actually a 4-player map. So it's made by Killer Smile, and this is the description, okay? He says... So the mapmaker says, on this expansive 4-spawn map, you can easily take 3 bases along your high ground. There's a 4th right below your main base. And beyond that, you have to unlock the shortest path to your 5th base by opening up a ramp by either mining the mineral wall on it or destroying the rock. Okay, that's probably, referencing this particular part. So one of the big problems that you get in 4-player maps, or on 4-player maps in general, is the fact that you sometimes just straight up have a spawn imbalance. So in this particular instance, we have a cross spawn. Shouldn't really matter all too much. But one of the big, difficulties with designing 4-player maps is that, well, first off, StarCraft 2 games are very quick. So if you accidentally scout in the wrong direction and you just don't see where your opponent is at, and your opponent happens to be going for something aggressive, there's a chance you just don't see it coming. So it kind of increases the randomness, I suppose, that usually, I think in my mind at the very least, takes away from StarCraft in general. Anyways, it's also just very difficult to make sure that the different spawn locations are at least somewhat balanced. So it says the cross map path is supported by speed zones. To counter aggression in the close spawn, you can throw down rock towers to block important paths. The middle does contain a strategic watchtower, so that's this thing right over here. So you do have some collapsible towers. It's got to be these right over here to, at least in theory, slow down the advancement of your opponent. Yeah. Now, there's been a lot of debate in the StarCraft community over the last few years whether or not we should maybe slow down the early game a little bit. And I am personally of the opinion that we should probably reduce the starting worker count to like maybe 9 or so. So it used to be 6 back then. In the early days of StarCraft 2, 4-player maps were very common and they were a lot of fun to watch. Then with Legacy of the Void, we went to 12. I think 12 just makes 4-player maps a little bit difficult. But if the new map pool goes hand in hand with some new balance changes, I wonder if it's a good idea to maybe reduce the starting worker count to like 9 or so, sort of just sit in the middle. And then, I think it's going to be a lot more viable to have these large maps without making them too committed, I suppose. Because you can just, like jokes aside, right? You can actually just win a game against a very good player just by getting extremely lucky. And while it's fine if you're playing a series, this is a best of 3, so you don't have a ton of margin, I guess. Like, you don't have a ton of wiggle room. I do think it just doesn't really add too much to the game if you Yeah, can win just by getting lucky. It doesn't really scream StarCraft to me. Then again, I guess there's a lot of games out there that are really popular just because of how coin flippy they tend to be, right? But in my mind, StarCraft 2 is one of those games where randomness really is not that significant a factor. And I think we should probably keep it that way. So there's a lot of 4-player maps in this particular TOMC. I would imagine at least 2 will make it to the final version of the map pool. Maybe 1, probably 2. I think it would be nice to reduce the starting worker count. Also just because it will create a little bit more variety, I think, in the earlier stages of the game. Anyways, first Oracle has now arrived, and MaxPax is going to follow it up with another one. Otto is being shot at. Otto, no! Well, at least he died on the beach. I mean, if you're gonna die somewhere on the beach, probably seems reasonable. We have another Overlord as well, though. Hiding over here on the right side. The mirrored location. For now, the build orders here are as we expected them to be. I wonder if we're once more gonna see Ragnarok commit to a quick +1 melee. I think if you do the same build twice in a row, so we do have a large number of Zerglings actually. Where are those Oracles? Yeah, the Oracles are completely on the other side of the map. This is a problem. Gigantic issue right now for MaxPax. He has to cancel the third base whilst it was nearly done. I mean, this is a downside, I guess, of the map being so freaking large. The Oracles just did not get recalled in time, and they couldn't quite make their way back home in time either. That suddenly Ragnarok is actually in a commanding position. MaxPax decides to, mix things up entirely. Rather than spending the money on rebuilding the Nexus, it seems, he's adding on a ton of gateways. He is going +1 melee again, and I feel like this is a reasonably weak play, because now we've done the same build here as Zerg multiple times in a row. He's making 14 drones, by the way. And obviously, MaxPax, he's a very smart man. He's not going for the exact same build, even though I feel like the early game was really good for him previously. If you see the same, well, signs here from the Zerg, it makes sense to go for charge instead of the blink upgrade. It is just going to put a lot more power out onto the map, and obviously he did add all of those extra gateways a little bit faster now. Third Nexus is being rebuilt, but we're going to see a ton of Zealots, and we'll probably see some Archons joining as well. So this is going to be a phenomenal start for Ragnarok. He is going Roach-Warren, which I think is smart. I don't think he really wants to be making roaches, though. Follows it up with +1 missile here. Wait, did he just cancel +1 melee? He did. Whoa, he canceled +1 melee and decided to go +1 missile? Yeah, I think he must have sniffed it out or something. That's kind of nuts. There wasn't really a clear takeaway. I mean, you see 4 gases here. You see everything that the Protoss has in the main base, but this looks identical to a Blink Stalker build. Unless he noticed something here. Maybe he saw a little Zealot warp in. That could be. Lots of roaches right now get made, though. That's super important. Because if you're just sort of stuck against an Archon Zealot push with +1 melee Zerglings, you're not likely to do too well. All right, it's time to dance. Let's see. How good are pro gamers at dancing? Okay, not very good, clearly. We do get some transfusions there on the Queen. We do also see the, well, roaches just plow through everything else. Oracle already died. Yeah, I can't say I like this here for Max. It is all a little bit problematic. No! Woof, okay. All right, kill Brenda. Come on, Brenda. What are you doing here? Get lost. There's a lot of movement out on the map too, but this is a disaster here for MaxPax. He got a Queen. He did kill Otto. Otto the Overlord and Brenda the Queen, but other than that, I don't think the game has really been going all too nicely for him. He decides to go into a double robo build now, and I guess he's super focused on just a full-on ground toss army. I will have to say, though, that even though he has been slowed down quite a lot, he has kept up the pro production. So worker-wise, he's actually fine. Let's see. Storm coming up on the back of this as well. So we are going to head on over into a Archon Immortal Zealot Storm-based unit composition. And that is a nice army. It is a nice army. Ragnarok could certainly try and counter it. There's some units for Zerg that just straight up hard counter it. Like if you get up to Brute Lord tech, for example, here as Ragnarok, it's basically game over. Not the case though. He's also not going into lurkers. So we're just going to be seeing pretty much mass Roach Hydra. A little bit of a Zergling push over here too. But MaxPax is effectively committed here to like a 3-base all-in. The Templar, morph them together. Nope, not quite in time. Large number of Zerglings too. MaxPax taking a page out of Hero's book. You love to see it, or you hate to see it actually. Looks like most of the roaches actually got stuck up against the wall there. The old Sun Temple does not have an easy way for you to get out. Rather than losing the links. Ragnarok is just going to run back home himself. Fair enough. Now, Ragnarok has done a really good job here, right? Guiding MaxPax into this path. At this point, the Protoss options are extremely limited. MaxPax really is just tunnel visioned into some sort of 3-base play. If you know that that is the case, should you be attacking? I don't know if I love it. There's a Nexus here now building on the far left side of the map. I think Ragnarok should almost try to soft contain MaxPax here. Like, just contain him on 3 bases. Make sure you have a spotter unit down south as well as on the left side of the map so you see if there's any sneaky bases coming in. I feel like pushing here is rather risky. He apparently believes he's got a significant upper hand, and I do like the position for Ragnarok quite a bit. But this is a Protoss army that needs to be respected. Stasis Ward is real scary. Storm is real good. This is an army that packs a punch, and rather than teching up, I find Ragnarok here taking a bit of a chance. Unnecessarily so. By just doubling down on this Roach Hydra push. Now he's going Hive. Oh, the Storms are good. Now he's going Lurker Den as well, but this army of Ragnarok is being torn apart. This may have just been exactly what MaxPax is looking for. So far, the Immortals are feeling pretty immortal to me. They have been shooting and killing. I think we go. Then again, MaxPax has been scouting. He will know that there is no Hive done yet. The main problem that you run into here as the Protoss player is, as we do now have this Nexus on the left side getting spotted, but the main problem you run into is mass Lurker. So if suddenly there's 20 Lurkers out on the battlefield, you just can't really do anything anymore with a Ground Tulls army. Like, you're almost forced into Sky Tulls at that point. MaxPax needs to make sure that he goes across the map before that sort of army arrives out onto the battlefield. Ragnarok is getting the Hive tech done now. It's a long trek across the map. There are multiple forces here for the Zerg, multiple clumps of Roach Hydra. Man, I find the attack here from Ragnarok very questionable. Like, he had Protoss exactly where he wanted him to. Okay, I think going back right now, yeah, Seismic Spines, just start pumping out those lurkers. What we really need is just a stupid amount of, well, anti-immortal Archon counters. Brute Lords would be the best way of doing it, but lurkers are also a solid choice. Okay, Ragnarok actually backing up at the right time. Should I just start calling him Ragnarok again, by the way? Is that what we're gonna do? From what I understand, so SHIN renamed like maybe 5 years or so ago. He played under the nickname Ragnarok for the first decade of StarCraft, as we now have a fleet beacon here coming up. Then I guess he just didn't really like the name Ragnarok anymore, and he changed to his actual name. So initially I think he played under the name Hebam or something along those lines, which I believe is his first name, or like his, it's always confusing to me, because is it first name, last name? Anyways, I think SHIN is actually the family name. So anyways, long story short, after playing under the idea of Ragnarok for a very long time, decided to shift it over to one of his actual names. And now that we're all used to SHIN, we've gone back to Ragnarok. Lurkers do have their ranged upgrade right here. And this base is going to get denied as well. Making all the right choices. We do, by the way, have that fleet beacon done now. There's not really a spire out or anything along those lines. Not really an urgency just yet, but we could certainly expect, for example, a mothership to come up. That would be big. MaxPax, though, has just been contained for such a long time, right? Like, he's been stuck on 3 bases. And while it's fine for the first 15 minutes or so of the game, we are getting to the point now where MaxPax will start running out of juice. The main base is going to be empty soon. Oh, he's trying to see if he can collapse on top of his army. This is risky, though. Now he's also split up himself, and it is a lurker field out there. Backing up, though, with loads of Psy Storms. MaxPax still finds himself about 50 supply behind. But his army is formidable. Yeah, another big storm, man. The storms are so juicy. The lurkers are actually dying now. Looks like most of the High Templar are gone at this point. Here's the rest of the Protoss army now flanking this. Flanking the flanker. I mean, never count MaxPax out, man. This is a scary army. Ragnarok is being way too aggressive here. He's throwing away Zerg army as if he's got money in the bank for days, but suddenly the supply count is evened up. Yeah, he's being way too frivolous here just with his unit movement. Another big storm. He cannot keep eating storm like that. If you just sit on creep with all your lurkers, it is pretty much impossible for Protoss to push. But Ragnarok decided to do the greedy thing as he moved out onto the map. He had this Protoss player exactly where he wanted him to, but now suddenly the +3 attack is in trouble. The hatchery itself is going to be next. Look at the Archons and Immortals just tanking all of the shots and destroying the lurkers. Suddenly the drones are next too. MaxPax has found the perfect opportunity. He waited. He sat here patiently and waited for the perfect shot to go. It's not over yet though. Ragnarok has a good army. And he is now finally committing to defending, but is it a little bit too late? Loads of observers nearby too. Zealots right now tanking the spines of those lurkers. That allows the Immortals to break through it all. Ragnarok just threw away a massive lead. He just threw away a massive lead. Now, his one saving grace is that there is a fully, mining base here on the right side of the map that Max doesn't know about. I think if he would have known, he would have gone after it already. Now it's MaxPax, though, smelling blood in the water. Wow, GG gets cold. He doesn't even need to know about the base on the right. MaxPax evens up the score. Okay, and that means that this series will come down to the map Rainfall. Ragnarok letting it slip out of his fingers. Unnecessarily so. Getting a little bit too greedy. I mean, we've all been there. We've all been there. You get tunnel visioned. You believe you're further ahead than you actually are. And then suddenly, the Immortals live up to their names. They just refuse to die. Suddenly, you dance in the storm for a little bit too long. And, well, Protoss comes knocking at your front door. I mean, on a map like Rainfall, right? Where there's actual rain falling down. Do you just go storm every time? It seems appropriate to me. I don't really know if I like this effect over here in the main base very much. Like, why does it look like it's behaving at like 5 frames per second? Do I need a new computer? I just got a new computer. No, I think there's something a little bit cursed about this animation in the main base. Yeah, it's the same on the side of the Zerg as well here. Ugh. I do really like the cute touch over here, though, in the middle with the little Ewok dudes hanging out underneath the bridge. They even brought some lights, it seems. Anyways, group of Zerglings has immediately gone across the map as Ragnarok decided to open up with a very quick pool. Speaking of pool, the probes have been pooled. Ooh, careful. Yeah, this is actually problematic now. New pylon needs to be coming up. That pylon will be within range of the Cybercore, but it's not going to be enough to actually plant down the final structure there, I don't think. Nexus on the low ground finishes up. We get a little bit of a drone drill, or a probe drill, I guess. Only 2 links right now will remain. And I think the probes alone are going to be able to take very quick care of it. Shindo knows, right? So he's just trying to bait some movement out. Ultimately, though, I think this Zergling is going to die too. Yeah. I'm sorry, there's a lady. A lady with... There you go. Like a frisbee. Like an orb. I don't actually know what the attack type of an adept is, but... Let's just say that she frisbeed his face, and he died. And look at this, suddenly. We go hand in hand. Perfect timing on the second adept spawn. We do get the Stargate now in the main base. Yet again, an Oracle opener. This map is pretty sweet. It's very tempting to make, like, very bright and, like, exciting maps, I suppose. This one's a little bit more moody. Map makers have actually been toning it down a little bit with the bright colors lately, which is kind of cool as well. It's really interesting to me to see like map making develop almost as like an art form over time, you know? Initially, everybody wanted to create very screamy maps where we all wanted to one-up one another. And that worked. But right now, we're once more going back down to the more classic, color schemes, I suppose. The more classic tile sets here. Just the grassy plains. We have some mud, some water. It is nice. Wow. He actually committed there to the Revelation just to kill a single creep tumor. Interesting play there for Max. I guess if he feels like he can't really get anything done with the Oracle, he may as well use some of the energy up. Again, we have a quick Evo chamber here for Ragnarok. Okay, Queen ends up dying. Apparently the reason that Ragnarok changed his username from SHIN back to Ragnarok is because of the team league. So he's been playing with his CJ and his buddies from old. And apparently that alone is enough then to just bring it all back to the good old days. A little bit of StarCraft nostalgia, I suppose. Anyhow. This map is big enough though for the Oracles to just fly back home. After going Blink in game number 1 and Charge in game number 2, MaxPax is now following it up with Glaive Adepts in game number 3. He's already queued up Blink, actually. That's kind of crazy. Okay, he decides to cancel it and build up an extra Oracle instead. That makes way more sense. No reason to park that many resources for that long. Maybe you can do it in some other RTS games, but in StarCraft you have to be a little bit more optimal. Loads of links being made. Now, this is going to be +1 melee for the Zerg player against Glaive Adept Oracle from the Protoss. Ragnarok scouts, he will see a Twilight Council and a bunch of gateways. Right. So what are the options with Twilight Council? Well, Blink, Charge, +1 melee. Right? With, like, say, for example, Charge, and then you can go into Glaive Adept, you can go into Archon drops, you can go into Dark Templar. This is the main downside as a Zerg player here. When you scout it's a Twilight Council, you now know that it's one of 6 different viable options. Most of the time it's Blink, but not every time. Ragnarok desperately trying to break open the front door as well as the third base. He will get a Stalker for his troubles over here, I suppose, but yeah. It's been expensive though. So that's 1,400 minerals worth going down for the Zerg. It's not like his eco is that much better. The Oracles are still going around. 6 kills combined. Not the end of the world, but... Oh, he actually decided to cancel Blink a second time around and went for Charge instead. Baneling's coming up, so that is Ragnarok's big plan. Mass Zergling wouldn't really cut it. What about Zergling Baneling? This defense needs to be explosive. If the fights go on for a long time, like literally here for Ragnarok, if the fight goes on for a long time, and MaxPax can shade back and forth a bunch of times, it's going to be extremely difficult. Zerglings decide to commit. +1 melee is nice, but yeah, we are going to see some of the Adepts slip through the cracks. He now sees the mainlings, needs to split up to the best of his abilities. This will be a defense here for the Zerg eventually, but that was expensive, and despite the fact that the defense was pretty clean, that was 6 drones falling, whilst MaxPax is capable of just going toe-to-toe economically. So the Adepts are certainly cost-effective. Banelings are expensive units. Now we get some of the Oracles here joining in too. More and more energy on them. I really like actually that we have a third Oracle added into the mix once more. Something that MaxPax has now been doing in all of these games. Okay. Ragnarok's backbone is going to be Hydralisks yet again. It's been costly. He did lose a lot of units. But he is going to be able to, at the very least, get those Hydras going. Hydra Ling Bane, of course, is a proven strategy. It's a unit composition that we've seen many, many times over the years. Ling Bane, though, is very... Like, none of the units, when you play Mass Ling Bane, are going to stay alive. Like, they're not really meant to be stayed alive. So you kind of need, or kept alive, rather. You need to trade them out and get new ones. And if you're doing so off of a similar economy as the opponent, you just run into problems in the long run. Hydras, though, they should stay alive. And while the Lings and Banes can do some of the tanking, the Hydras then can deal most of the damage. Storm yet again, though, on the back it is here for Max. I mean, the map is Rainfall. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised for a little bit of Storm. A little bit of Thunder. There is again a 5th hedge. 4th Nexus here in the meantime on the right side of the map too. This one seems to be nice and tucked away. Yeah, the 3rd base is wide open, but the 4th hatch is, or the 4th base rather, is way easier. Kind of like the stasis wards. Very useful. More and more adepts though are shading around and ultimately they will all die. Okay. +1 melee. Melee speed. Storm. It's all lined up very nicely. These Zealots are a donation. Although apparently we decided to lose some Banelings for it. Probably not what we should be doing. More and more stasis wards have been set up though. And this does not look like a base that you can push into. Ooh, apparently SHIN disagrees. He is making an insane amount of Banelings. He already had a lot of them out. Banelings are so expensive, man. They're 50 minerals, 25 gas each. He wants to end this game. That's kind of what it feels like to me. He wants to go for a repeat of game number 1. Will he actually be able to pull it off? That's the big question. MaxPax's defensive skills are really solid. And this time around, I think the spread of the High Templar is quite a bit better. Yeah, he's got Templar in the natural at the 3rd, and then also this 4th base is looking really well protected. More Banelings are coming up, though. We're going north of 50 Banelings. He will have one shot. One opportunity to seize it. Look at this. Oh, yeah, MaxPax doesn't even care. MaxPax probably expects this fight to come in. Banelings are going around the site. That is expensive. That is going to be a lot of probes dying, but... I mean, that was also a ridiculous amount of Banelings. More and more of the probes, though, are going to fall, and it's not over just yet. 27 probes just like that, and suddenly MaxPax needs to keep so many balls up in the air. He is really struggling keeping this alive, but even though this looks like a repeat from game number 1, it may accidentally turn into a repeat from game number 2 as well, because MaxPax can now go in for the counterattack. Ragnarok threw away a ton of army, a very expensive army. I wonder if this is enough units left over here for Max to go in for an attack. I think he needs to go, though. He does not have time to wait. He knows that the Zerg eco will be better. Fighting on creep is dangerous, but he's got a lot of Archons, and he's got some Storms still available, too. First Storm is pretty decent. Yeah, not ideal. Yeah, he knows he needs to go. That's too many worker losses. 4th Nexus is still alive. He does awkwardly start up one additional probe. I think Ragnarok is just barely getting enough units out. Such a risky playstyle. I guess we found the reason as to why we did not go for more pro production sooner. MaxPax is bringing mom. Look, it's all fun and games until your mom comes to the playground, you know? Did he see? I think he may have noticed. Oh, he doesn't care. More Banelings added into the mix. Looks like a little run by on the left side of the map also got cleaned up. Mama is real powerful, but she's also real expensive. There's a Yo Mama joke there somewhere. Anyways, it's gonna be a while before she's out. And if Ragnarok has any say in the matter, the game is gonna be done before mom makes it to the playground. Ay, ay, ay. That's so many probes yet again. This feels super old school to me. Ragnarok going about a decade back in time, not just with his username, but also with his playstyle. Yeah, it is time to swarm. And at this point, Mama's gonna spawn, but there's not gonna be anything to spawn into anymore. My god. It is an actual bloodbath here. So many lost resources for both players. 67 Banelings in total. Rejoice, Gen Alpha. Mama's out. Mama's out. There she is. Cloak. We got a cloak. Okay, we're not going to cloak. We are going to cloak. Yeah, there we go. Time warp as well. There is, of course, also the detection here for the Overseer. Man, so many units have already died. This is not really a Zergy army, though, that's really good against, well, flying units. Hydras do, in the strictest sense of the word, have an anti-air attack, but not really usually where they are, well, particularly powerful. Okay, Ragnarok needs to be careful that he doesn't throw it away all too much. If we look at the army size, yeah, you can see the moment that your mama came out, immediately, life turned out to be better for Protoss, but I think she's a little too late. She's too late, too expensive, too slow, takes too long to build. That's the main downside. Now, Ragnarok does not have a Spire, though, so no Corruptors or anything along those lines. But what he does have is just a sheer amount of stuff. And this may end up being one of those classic games of StarCraft 2 where more stuff beats less stuff. You do need at least a reasonable composition worth of units. Time Warp gets planted down. MaxPax is just spamming all the buttons like this is a MOBA, man. QWER. Just get all of the abilities out. Mama takes critical amounts of damage. And indeed, our every favorite MOBA character will end up dying. And I've got a feeling that with Mama biting the dust, MaxPax's chances are dwindling. Not only does he have a bad economy, we're also 14 minutes into the game, and he will not really be able to continue mining the main anymore. The natural is going to be very empty. Even the third base is going to be drying up before too long. Ragnarok chased him all the way off creep, really for no apparent reason at all. He's just being a little bit too aggressive in these games, to my liking. I think it's a bit unnecessary, but I think it is good enough in this particular instance, because he is just throwing bodies at the Protoss. And with it, he gets the job done and wins 2-1 over MaxPax.